my name is Dr. Angela Riccobono. I'm the founder of the Nancy Lieberman Back to Life Center. And I'd like to welcome you all to our February 2026 NancyTalk. Today we have Mount Sinai's own Paralympian, Garrison Redd. I first met Garrison a little over 3 years ago when we hired him to be our outreach coordinator. Now, an outreach coordinator, their job is not so easy. You know, their job is to primarily help newly injured people understand that, you know, no matter how much you've lost, there's still plenty of life left to enjoy. And in my experience, there's nothing more powerful than seeing that glazed over, hopeless expression on the face of someone who's been newly injured disappear when they see someone else doing something that they thought was no longer possible. And Garrison is that someone else. He's the someone else that I witnessed roll up at the bedside of a newly injured person who's literally, most of the time, has the covers over their heads because they think life is not worth living anymore like this. And Garrison, I don't know how you do it, but it's your smile, it's your positivity, it's your personality, it's everything about you engages people. And before you know it, those same people that had the covers over their head are out of bed, are off the unit grabbing a cup of coffee, are in the gym starting to lift weights, are down the street grabbing a slice of pizza. And before I know it, they're discharged and I'm getting pictures on my phone showing them rock climbing, swimming, jumping out of airplanes. And I say to myself, wow, these are the same people that had covers over their heads. But the thing about all those pictures that really hits me the hardest is that they're all smiling. And that says so much about the work Garrison does. Garrison, literally, you save lives.
Thank you, thanks.
And you know, when I look around the room today, I actually see some of those lives you've helped save.
Thank you, thank you.
So please welcome Garrison.
Yeah. Thank you, Angela. I really appreciate the introduction. So today, well, when they approached me with doing a NancyTalk, I was saying to myself, what I'm going to talk about. I didn't want to talk about just spinal cord injury. I wanted to talk about something that could bring everybody together. So I thought about adapting, because I felt like adapting is really important for everyone. You know, it doesn't matter if you have an injury or not. At some point, you have to adapt. You do it every day subconsciously and don't even realize sometimes. When you look out the window, and if it's cold, you put on a jacket. If it's hot, you wear a t-shirt. So I wanted to talk about adapting, I wanted to talk about change, and I wanted to talk about trying and the effort it takes to just try. So I'm gonna give you a little backstory on myself. For those of you who do not know, I was injured August 14th, 2005. And like many of us, it was just an ordinary day, and out of nowhere, we sustained a spinal cord injury. And then you wake up. You wake up briefly in ICU where you have tubes coming from your side, coming from your nose, coming from your mouth. And you're so overwhelmed, you usually just go back to sleep. And then another day goes by, you wake up, you see yourself. A lot of times you're immobile, you're not allowed to eat yet. And then, well, at Brookdale Hospital where I was, then they transfer you to another unit. And being that I was 17 when I was injured, they transferred me to like a pediatric ICU like ward. So it wasn't much privacy. You could see everybody around you that also had different injuries, whatever they was in the hospital for. It really was eye-opening at that point. Because now I'm 17, I'm like, this is a real world. And I still couldn't process everything. Like, I just couldn't process it because I was a healthy young man. I played football, I lettered in football, I was strong, fast, and all of these incredible physical talents that, you know, it takes people a lifetime to develop. I developed it really early. At like 16, I was benching 315 pounds. So to go from benching that much weight to not even be able to lift up an apple, or at least feel like you want to lift up an apple. Like at that time, I felt like I couldn't do anything. I was just laying in the bed, the TLSO brace on, and I remember the doctor that pretty much ran the unit, Dr. Baldorf, she said some important words to me. She said, life is about perspective. And you can see the glass as half empty or half full, but that's going to be up to you to decide. And yeah, you might not be able to play football, but you can always be a football coach. So I thought about it, I processed it, but I still didn't understand what she meant at the time, because like many of us, we just want to return back to walking. That's all we say. We just want to walk. The doctors come in, they show you pictures of your spine. You don't even know what are you looking at, but you tell the doctor, I just want to walk. So then you go to this place called the Rehabilitation Center. I went to NYU Rusk. Some people go to Mount Sinai. At the end of the day, I feel like all rehabilitation centers are special for one reason or another. Oh, shout outs to my mom, she just arrived. But so you go into this place called the Rehabilitation Center, and that place is meant to make you better. Now, your definition of better, that could be subjective for person to person. Better looks different, you know. Some people improve motor-wise, and then some people improve physically. That's the goal, especially when you go to a spinal cord injury rehabilitation center. And you want to improve mentally as well, because when you enter the rehab facility on the first day, your mindset is like, these doctors is going to help me, you know, get back on my feet, and I'm going to get back on my feet within that time span that I'm going to be here, and then I'm going to go out into the world just like how I was prior to my injury. And that's not the case. You know, a lot of times we don't make the recovery that's expected. So what you're going to do when you don't make the recovery that's expected? Do you give up? Well, you can't give up. So I'm going to give you some more insight on the rehabilitation process and what I learned as a foundation to carry me on into the society, into the world. And living in New York City, the world can be unforgiving at times. So I'm in a rehab. This might have been maybe like the second day. I remember this gentleman by the name of Dr. David McGill comes into my room. And I think I'm sorry that he's not here, he's no longer here, but he taught me so many things that has carried me still to this day. I remember the first day he walked in my room and I'm like, Doc, I want to walk again. And he's like, can you get an erection though? And I'm like, Doc, and I'm like, you know what? That's my man. Like, you know, he's about me. Like, and he was really kooky, you know. Like, I find it, but he was unique. And like, I started to get to know Dr. Miguel, and I remember I had got a skin wound, and it was because the negligence from the nurse. She didn't read she didn't apply the proper medication to an open scab, an open wound that I had at the time. So I wasn't going to be able to bear weight because the wound just kept getting worse and worse. It was behind my Achilles tendon, so it didn't get a lot of blood. So I would eventually have to do a skin graft. But up until that point, he told me, I'm going to teach you everything you need to know about the spinal cord, from C all the way down to S, and what functions each of them have. So I'm 17. I got to learn about a spinal cord. I got to go to school. I got to go to therapy 4 hours a day, you know, pretty much felt like 7 days a week, but it probably was only like 6 days a week or whatever. But it was every day. My parents was there. So like after I did therapy, I remember my mother and father always used to challenge me. Like if I was able to do something, like learn a new skill, they wanted me to improve on that skill. So I remember there was times I was in the bed like, I don't even feel like feeding myself today. You know, you get into that depression. You get into that mode where it's like, to hell with life. I'm never gonna get better. And I'm not gonna live this way. I'm just gonna lay in this bed and a miracle is gonna happen. Well, that miracle never happens, you know, that you're looking for, you know, that, all right, today I'm gonna run. Days go by and you're like, damn, I still ain't run yet. I still ain't move my pinky, or I still ain't move my little toe, or whatever the case is. So I started learning about the spinal cord because the reason being is because he wanted me to be able to ask questions. He knew that in the future, you know, there'll be technologies and things of that nature that will come out. And if you have the ability to ask questions, to advocate for yourself, then he felt like that's the way you would get the best treatment when it comes to having a spinal cord injury, because everybody is different. So yeah, so we develop these skills while we in rehab, and you get better at them, but a lot of the skills that you learn is the foundation for what you're gonna have to take into life. So like, we get discouraged. Almost everyone here who has a spinal cord injury probably got discouraged the day they fitted you for the spinal cord, for a wheelchair, because that's when you realize that this is real. This is how life might be. I'm not gonna say it's going to be, it might be. So you get fitted for that chair and you're like, I'm still gonna walk. You're still in your mind, you're saying you're gonna walk, but you start to realize, you start to accept the injury and you start to make that adjustment. So that's the first adjustment you make in living with the spinal cord injury, and anybody could apply it. Sometimes you have to adapt because of the fact that you're forced to adapt. And when you're forced to adapt, it leaves a lot of uncertainty because you're not sure what's going to be the result of adapting. So the therapists give you these cool skills, they teach you how to transfer, but then it takes a community. And your community could look different. You can have a community of people that use wheelchairs, you can have a community of people that don't, but just around you for motivation. There's tons of different communities that you could be a part of. But you always have to be a part of a community that accepts you in whatever form you're in. So at the time, I'm in the rehab now, probably like 4 months. I got the TLSO brace off, so that means like your back is probably, held, it's more stable. And I started learning the mobility skills of the wheelchair and, got the routines down. So then I had a goal, and my goal was, being that I was 17, I was still in high school, was to walk across the stage. So Dr. Miguel said, like, I can't promise you that you're going to be able to walk regular at any point, any time in life, but what I can promise you that you could walk across the stage. So I'm like, how if I can't, ambulate like normally? And he's like, there's these things called braces, and now that you're getting strong enough, you're going to the second phase of spinal cord injury recovery, where now we're going to work more on your motor skills and seeing what return you may have. So I'm like, all right, that's kind of how, and they started teaching me all these different things, valgus, varus, proprioception, and then I just became and fell in love with it, because I wanted to learn, like, oh, the body, this function of the body does that, things of that nature. And then, so you get the brace, and he's like, well, the graduation, the stage is about like 100 feet, so you got to go 170 feet, because you might have to walk back to your wheelchair as well. So I remember, and it just came with trying. I remember I had to try the braces, and the first day you try, you get up on the parallel bars, you're like, I cannot move in these things. I'm never going to be able to use them to get across the graduation stage. But you get better. And I try to always, everybody I come across, I try to let them know that it's very important to try. Because if you don't try, you already failed. And if you do try, you could fail, but you can happen to succeed. You can actually be good at something that you never tried before. And I took that and applied it to living with a spinal cord injury. I figured that if I don't try it, then if I try it, and I'm actually a little decent at it, it could open up the doors for somebody else that could be great at it. And at the time of my injury, there wasn't much people. There was a cool guy named Victor out here. But a lot of people with spinal cord injury that I came encounter with, they wasn't living. And when I say living, it's like I wanted to see more people out and about. I wanted to see more people like in the airport, so that way I could learn from them. However, unfortunately, social media wasn't as big then, so a lot of things I did, I just tried. So I remember like one time, and then my mom's played a huge role. Like, this story is part hers as well, because I remember her telling me things like, well, you got to find a job, or you got to find a job or go to school within 6 months of discharge. She wasn't having it. So I'm in the bed trying to figure out how I'm going to go to school or work. I said, I'm going to go to school, though, because I think I need my education. And people like Victor always said, like, education would be the key, being that you have a spinal cord injury. So I'm like, I know I'm going to go to school. I know I'm smart. However, like, how I'm going to do it. And that's, once again, that's adapting to change, but trying things in order to, succeed at the change, because the change is constant. The environment changes daily. So I remember the first step was getting rid of the sliding board. My mom like, you can't take the sliding board with you everywhere. It's just too much stuff you have going on. And from learning how to transfer without a sliding board led me to transferring to bar stools. I could transfer to cars that's about 6 feet high. But it's all just practicing those skills, going back to the foundation, and being open to change, because it's going to change again. You know, there's going to come to a point in my life where I can't transfer into something that's 6 feet high or something like that, and then I will have to adapt to what I'm able to do at that point. But as long as you hear, like, I feel like we have so many incredible capabilities that we do not even know that we have. And once I got out of rehab, that was like an accomplishment for me, because I felt like if I could put hard work in each and every day for a year, because I was in rehab for a total of 11 months, but it was almost like a week away for 12 months or whatever. But if I could give that type of effort each and every day, and Dr. Miguel was like, you're going to succeed, you know? You're going to go to school, it's going to be easy, life is going to be easy for you. And also I met another person along the way in my journey. It was a family friend of ours, and he told me when I was in ICU, I would never forget the words that he said: you face death and you won, so you don't have to worry about dying again. And it just made me relentless. Like, I could test the waters, you know, I could test myself, I could go to the limit, because I don't have to have that fear no longer. And when you get out in the real world, it's like, though all of those skills, all those things that people told you, it's going to come into play at some point. And I remember one of the last things Dr. Miguel told me before I was discharged. He was like, you're going to go out in this world and you're going to teach other doctors how to be doctors at some point in your life, because I believe in you. And, you know, it's unfortunate, like I said, he's not here no longer, but I would have loved to show him, like, what I'm doing now, and he would just be so ecstatic, because he believed in me well before the world knew who I was, the world, social media, or any of those things. He told me, like, we're going to get a plan, a program, we're going to work towards it, and at the end of the day, you're going to come out a better person than you ever will be if this injury didn't occur to you. So now, change happens again. You go out into the real world, you find out these New York City streets are not that fun to roll on like how it is in the hospital. You find out like these elevators are not the best. You're going to have to learn how to use an escalator. And it's just adapting to the world around me. I had to learn how to use an escalator. I remember I met up with one of my friends, Kamel, who's now the president of MTA Accessibility. I believe that's his title. But I remember we met up, and the elevators are working on 42nd Street. And Kamel was like, yo, G, I'm leaving you. I'm like, how you gonna leave me? He said, I'm taking the escalator. I was like, if you could take the escalator, I could take the escalator. Mind you, I never took the escalator before. But I'm like, if Kamel could do it, I'm gonna try and do it, and it is what it is. Well, we took the escalator in Grand Central Station, and it worked out. And then at that point I said, oh wow, this is gonna increase my independence. It's gonna give me another mode of transportation, because now I don't have to worry if it's elevators working. I could just take an escalator, 1, 2, 3. And you know, was a very important part of my life, just remembering those things, is because it shaped who I am now. It was a foundation. Like, you have to try, you have to be courageous, you have to sometimes just take control of yourself. You know, you can't depend on what the world is doing for you. You have to do it for yourself. So if the elevator is broken, there's another way to get to that destination. And I don't know how you're going to get there, but you can get there. So it goes on, and then I go to school. Now that's another change, because I didn't know what to expect in school. You know, it's my first time really going out back into society since my injury. And I didn't know how people would treat me. So I go to school, and I'm like, I'm gonna adapt to the environment. But I made a mistake. I took like 1 online classes and 3 night classes. And with my personality being like secluded and not around people that's sociable, it just wasn't gonna work. But I had a 3.8 GPA, but I wasn't happy. So the second semester, I was like, yo, I'm taking day classes. day class was the best thing I ever did. My GPA went to a 1.7, but the amount of fun I had in this wheelchair, I'll tell you, I remember my friends was like, yo, Garrison gotta come because the wheelchair is the chick magnet. And like, they'll carry me upstairs and things of that nature, because this is back in 2007. And they wanted me to go, so.
That's all I heard, the chick magnet.
They wanted me to go, so like even with going to the club, like they was like, yo, Garrison, you gotta come with us to the club, like you have to. And I'm like, how am I gonna get in the club? I've never been to the club. But in my head, I'm like, remember when I tried that escalator thing with Kamel and it worked out all right? Remember when I did this and it worked out all right? I'm gonna go to the club, and turned up, fell out the chair a few times, but it was the best time of my life. And from there, I was like, all right, the world is gonna accept me. So they didn't see the chair, and that was the important part. Like, during those days, when people had a perspective of a wheelchair user, they used to use this horrible word, which I'm glad I don't hear anymore. They used to call us crippled and stuff like that. And then if you define cripple, I think the definition is basically someone that can't do anything at all, and you're like, that doesn't fit me, because I could do more than majority of the people that I'm around each and every day. But you got to change that. You got to change that perspective on, what a wheelchair user looks like, who is a wheelchair user, and all of those things. And the only way you could change that is by adapting to the environment and going out into it. So I made it my duty to go out every day. Just if I wake up, I'm gonna get dressed, and I used to get dressed in the bed, and then I said I'm gonna change because I wanna see myself in the mirror. I started getting dressed in a chair. It was horrible, but after about 150 times of getting dressed in a chair, I became a pro, and I was able to change in like 5 minutes flat or less. So with that said, it goes back to just taking the opportunity to try something new, to be open to try something new. So then the journey goes, I'm in school, enjoy school. I actually graduated a half a semester early. I was able to catch up to all my friends that graduated me in high school, even though I missed about 8 months of college, kind of, sort of. However the time frame worked out, I caught up to them. And that right there was an accomplishment in itself, because it showed me that my mind still worked. And I remember my mother used to be in the hospital, was like, the body could be broken, but don't let it break your mind. And each and every day, I worked towards keeping my mind sane, because this thing would drive you crazy living with a spinal cord injury if you let it. So I just, stayed positive, and, being around kids taught me something. It taught me that they don't see certain things that adults see. Like, adults worry about so many things that they don't even have to worry about because they have fear. They assume that this is gonna happen because this happened to this person. But they don't know that this might be a totally different outcome for you. Like, you could do it, and this might be your passion. So you might just automatically be good at it. So with that said, so I'm in school. Now I graduate in college. So I'm like, all right, mom already told me after school you gotta go get a job. So how are you gonna go about getting a job? So I was in York College. I just randomly one day went into the advisory office. First, I went to the Disability Services office. I didn't really like the Disability Services office because they kind of rubbed me the wrong way, because one time I wanted to take 6 classes in a particular semester, just because I feel like when you're doing something, you might as well just go all in, and the faster it's over, the better it is for you. So I went to the Disability Service office, and they told me how I will only be able to take 4 classes. So I said, you know what, I don't need an advisor no more. I'm gonna select my own classes. And I just tried it. I was like, I don't know anybody else that selected their own classes, but I'm gonna do it because that's what I wanna do. And it was a great decision, once again, that I made, being that I was able to graduate faster. I didn't let nobody tell me what my limit was. I told them that I have more. So you embodied that. But I stood up for myself. Like, I really stood up for myself. I advocated for myself. And by advocating for myself, it changed the perspective in CUNY. Because in CUNY, York, the advisor now knows that if a person wants to take 6 classes, you gotta let them take the 6 classes. You can't tell them they can't take the 6 classes. And there was one particular class, and this is where I had to adapt, but my adaptation this time, it wasn't gonna be me changing, I was gonna make the school change. So I took a photography class that was in an inaccessible room. I knew it was in an inaccessible room, but I said they're gonna have to accommodate me because this is what I want to take. So I remember taking the class, going the first day. The professor looked at me like I was crazy, like, why are you here? And this can't happen. You're gonna have to take a different class. So she went to the disability service office, and they sided with her saying, you should take a art history class. I'm like, art history? I can care less about art history. I want to take pictures. This doesn't, do anything for me. So I remember, like, I was mad, but I was like, this can't be right. So I told my mom, and she reached out to the president of the school, and he's like, you're all right. So they actually made the class so easy for me. They gave me a digital camera and said, you're pretty much going to get an A. You just got to show up. And I said, all right, we cool with that. But it was the advocating for myself that they was going to force me. And I noticed, and at that time I was noticing that a lot of times with people with disabilities, they change for others. And that's fine. Sometimes you have to change for others, but it's a 50-50 thing. If I adapt to you, you got to adapt to me at some point. And that was my approach going forward, because now I'm going into the work world. And the work world could be unforgiving as well. They don't care a lot about, are you going to be there on time and are you going to produce? But I didn't know that, living with a disability, and especially a physical one, people have perceptions. So I would go in interviews, and I got turned down for like 90% of them, even though I qualified. It's just that it's a perception, it's a perception. Like, is he going to be here on time and things of that nature? But the one job that called me back was the IRS. And the IRS like, sure, you can work with us. So I'm like, yo, and at that point I'm like, all right, it's a new change, because I'm going to a new environment. It was in Oatsville, New York, all the way out on Long Island, heavy snowstorms. The culture's a lot different. I'm from New York City. Oats is really rural. So I went there the first day, and my manager was like, what accommodations do you need? And I'm like, I don't need any accommodations. She's like, you sure? It just help you do your job easier or make it, a little better. And I was like, no, I don't want any accommodations. I don't really need any. As long as I can roll under a desk, I'm fine. And the impressive part about that experience and that change is because not only did I adapt and try something just by, going to first the job fair, then to the interview, then, attaining employment. I did it all by myself. So I already had confidence, like, oh, wow, I did this all by myself. Like, I could do things. And I remember the first year, at the end of the first year, probation is over, and they're like, and the perfect attendance award goes to Garrison. And I'm like, what? And it just changed the dynamic, because, like, they didn't think, like, how is he going to get perfect attendance? He don't get sick. He doesn't come late. And mind you, we started at 6 o'clock in the morning. So I used to have to get on the highway at 4:30 every morning. Rain, sleet, snow, hail. But I said it's going to be my duty to make it to work no matter what, because they already have a perception that I'm going to be take off more than the next person, or I'm going to need accommodations and things of that nature. And when that year ended, it was like this. Like, I remember my manager was like, "You're very impressive. Like, you're remarkable." And some of those things stand out because they created a foundation for me. It showed me that I can do things. I am an asset. See, I never wanted to be viewed as a liability, because I have more to offer to this world than just what my legs could do, My mind is working. It works perfectly fine. And the IRS treated me like an asset, treated me like how Mount Sinai is, how they treat me like an asset. But it was trying, it was going out and taking that leap of faith, like, all right, I'm going to go get a job. Because it's so easy to stay home. What people that don't have a spinal cord injury don't know, we deal with a lot of other issues than just walking. And sometimes you want to stay in, you want to lay in that bed, but for me it was more or less, if I lay in the bed, it's like I feel like I'm at my lowest. Because I remember being in the hospital, going back to when I was in rehab for the first month, it was like terrible for me. Like, I was sick every day, IVs, needles, 4 or 5 times a day, checking temperature. So I never wanted to go back to the bed, and I was going to do anything in my power to keep myself healthy enough where I don't have to lay in that bed. And then at the same time, I'm gonna find things to do. So after I realized I could work and I went there every day, I'm like, I could add more to my schedule. So my next plan was like, all right, what can I do to better myself? And I'm like, I don't really have any hobbies at this point in my life. Like, just hanging out is not a hobby. You need a hobby, something real, something that you could be passionate about. And I'm in the gym, and Jason, this guy from Wheelchair Sports Federation, limps over to me. And I'm like, yo, what's good, Jay? Like, I didn't know his name. I'm like, what's up, man? He's like, yo, you're super strong. Would you be interested in any adaptive sports? And I like brushed him off the first time. And then he's like, came to me again. He's like, I seen you go from just bench pressing that bar to now bench pressing 2 plates. Why are you not playing any sports? So I'm like, real talk, Jason, that was a passion of mine. I was an athlete, and when it was taken away from me, I eventually had to accept that change, that I was never going to play football again, but I didn't never want to play any other sport again. And then I went out to the adaptive football practice. They put me in at quarterback because I said, I got to go to work on Monday. I can't be getting hit out this wheelchair because they're physical. They're really physical. So I played quarterback. Nobody really hit me, but I threw a lot of touchdown passes. I got back to talking trash. If everybody knows, I'm great at trash talking. I can talk, I can get in your ear and make you frustrated. So I'm killing out there, just killing, throwing darts. And then I meet an incredible person, man, John Hammer. And John Hammer looked at me and was like, we're going to find a sport for you no matter what. I was like, all right, John, no team sports. I don't want to pass the ball. So he's like, all right, that's cool. He connected me with this organization. This was me just trying. I just tried to play adaptive football. I didn't try to be good. I just showed up. Most of life is just showing up. And if you could get there, the rest can happen for you. So try, show up. Those are key things in order to get to where you want to get to. So boom. I'm now competing with the New Jersey Navigators. It's like 2 months go by. He connected with the New Jersey Navigators. That's a Paralympic sports club for wheelchair racing, primarily. But they also do field sports as well. And I've started meeting other individuals with disabilities that has gone so far, like in this world. And at an early age, I met this guy, Rudy Garrison, whatever. I forgot his first name. I might be butchering it, but long story short, he has this disorder where he can only use one of his arms. But he won a gold medal in 2016 in Rio. And Jim Cuevas, the organizer of the New Jersey Navigators, said, you know how much money he made, Garrison? And I'm like, I don't know how much you get for a gold medal. He said he got $30,000. Don't you want $30,000? I said, yeah, let's figure out how we're going to get there, you know? But he's like, that's not the thing. The thing is, you see all of these adolescents right here, that's 18 and over, I got them a job at Prudential, each and every one of them, because they was able to come to practice every day for the last how many years they've been competing with the New Jersey Navigators. That's all he asks. All he wants to see is that you're able to try to make it to practice each and every Saturday. And that shows your character, because that means you're going to show up to a job. If you're going to show up to practice, more than likely you will show up to a job. And so I started competing in like field sports such as javelin, discus, and shot put. And wheelchair racing, but I was trash in wheelchair racing. It's 1,500 meters. I only do 100, and that's that. But shot put, I was pretty good. And then I was introduced to powerlifting. Jimmy was telling me it's like tri-states is where, it's like Memorial Weekend where Connecticut, New Jersey, and New York adaptive sports teams all compete in field and track-related sports. So he entered me in a powerlifting meet. And I didn't really know what I was doing. I was like, but I'll give it a try. Because I'm at the point in life where I heard that you miss every opportunity you don't take, or you miss every shot you don't take, whichever way you want to spin it. So I'm like, all right, let's do it. So I remember going to the powerlifting meet, trying to lift 225 pounds, and I didn't know there was cadences. So I take the bar out of the rack, is what the proper term is, and I just bench press it. And they give me 3 red lights. So I'm like, oh man, what am I supposed to do now? So then I'm like, all right, I get a second lift. I do the same thing. And my coach at the time, he's not a powerlifter coach, but he's like, Garrison, you gotta wait for the commands, wait for the commands. So I added more weight on. Everybody's like, why you adding more weight on? I'm like, this is way too light for me. I added like 240 pounds on the bar. And I actually listened to the cadence because I have problems sometimes listening when I'm involved in sports. And I brought it to my chest, listened to commands, good lift. And then something crazy happens. The next day, a person from Team USA reached out to me and said, we would like you to travel to Colorado Springs and train on a week-long training camp in powerlifting and field sports. I look at the email, I'm like, decline, this is spam. The following week, they was telling my mother, congratulations, your son probably could make Team USA. And she's like, I don't even know what y'all talking about. He just started this. I just came because I just wanted to support him. I don't understand what's going on. I don't care. Yeah. So then I look back and I said, wow, from trying, it led me to going on a flight to Colorado Springs just by trying. So imagine anything else that I try. I might actually be good at these things. So I go to Colorado, and then it's another form of adaptation because I went to a CUNY, so I like commuted to college. I didn't stay on campus because most CUNYs don't have a campus. I don't think it's like one maybe. But when you go to Olympic training facility, you stay on a campus and there's communal bathrooms. So what you do now when there's a communal bathroom, there's no such thing as a commode chair to put over your toilet bowl. You might get a shower chair, or it might just be a plastic garden chair that you gotta use. And the other athletes look at you like, bro, why are you asking for a commode chair? Like, what's wrong with you? You gotta transfer. And you just do it. You don't ask any questions, you just do it. You just adapt to the current change that you're enduring. And from there, you're like, oh wow, I could use a regular toilet bowl. So when I go on vacation, I don't have to ask for an accessible room if they don't have one. As long as they got like a walk-in shower, I should be all right. But that's just the skill I learned from taking away the sliding board. Because if I had the sliding board still, goes back to that. It's a foundation. So if I still had the sliding board, I would not be able to transfer to an able-bodied toilet bowl, things of that nature. And in other places, it increases. You know, those skills, you gotta constantly keep improving them. As long as you can, as long as you're healthy enough, and you gotta keep going. So then I do that, I make Team USA, but there was something missing. I'm like, how could I help people? So the only way not the only way, one way I thought about helping people was like, maybe if I just post videos on Instagram of ordinary spinal cord injury stuff, somebody might like it. Well, I posted a video one day and 14 million people liked it. And I was like, oh wow, it's lit now. And then I was like, all right, so I'm getting a little popular. What more? Because there's always something like, what more can you do? I always, at that point in my life, probably I was like 25-ish, 26. And I started looking for change. I started looking for environments that I could adapt in because I realized that there's some incredible people in all environments, in all places of the world. And if I could talk to more people, I will learn more, they will learn more, and it's like we're giving off positivity to each other. So it's funny because like, I remember another change that I had to make that I wasn't even comfortable with at the time was, and I know that a lot of people deal with it, especially low-level paraplegics, is that they give you, like when they gave me the braces, I didn't want to use the wheelchair for probably like the first 6 months. And I remember my mom like, you know how long it takes you to walk down the block? You could roll down that in like 3/4 of the time, and you could actually beat me down the block. So I'm like, for real? You're right. And then I started moving around with it, getting better, and I'm like, wow, this thing is really fast. So now it's no longer a wheelchair, it becomes my chariot towards independence. And once I started utilizing it more and more, the skills developed, it was time to drive. So that's another change. So I'm like, how I'm gonna drive? How I'm gonna break down the chair? Do I need someone with me? You know, you have all of these questions, but I went to the driving lesson, gave it a try. And in like 20 minutes, the driver was like, I could sign your certificate because you could drive. You're an incredible driver. I don't know how you were telling me that you never had hand controls before, never drove with hand controls before. I'm like, Well, I gave it a try and it worked out. So it's like another check mark, you know, something else that I tried and I was able to succeed with. And this goes back to another point that I would like to make. It comes from a quote from actually Michael Jordan. He said one time, people remember his game-winning shots, but he actually missed more game-winning shots than he made. And he said, the people only remember the ones that I made, but I only remember the ones that I missed. And I thought about that. I'm like, we try things each and every day, and we probably fail at majority of the things we try each and every day, but each and every day we learn every time we fail on how to be better for the next time we attempt whatever we're trying to do. And there, at some point, you're gonna get to the point where you are able to do it. You are able to move forward. And at that point, it's an accomplishment. And those series of small wins turns into big wins over time. Now, I don't want to talk y'all head off all day, but I'm gonna fast forward a little bit to like present day. And a couple of years ago, about 3 years ago, I was with a friend of mine that I haven't seen in a long time, and he became a minister or pastor at the Salvation Army, and I wanted to donate clothes. And he was like, Garrison, the other pastor here wants you to stay for this service. And I'm like, why? He's like, something came over him, and he wants you to stay for this service. Somebody talked to him and said, stay for this service. And I'm not a huge religious or spiritual person. I believe in God, but not huge on religion and promoting that, you know. My father was always more like hard work beats talent. There's no such thing as luck. You have to go out, work hard, and that's how you're going to attain whatever you want. And so I never was big on those things. But I go to the service or whatever, and after he invited myself and I think it was a few of my friends that I was with over, and he's like, the Lord spoke to me and said, you're the one that's going to change lives, more lives than I ever can. And I didn't know what he meant by that. But I took that with what Dr. Miguel told me, and I took that also with, well, when I was graduating college, a professor told me, when you go out in the world, try to have an impact on people. Whatever you do, just try to have an impact on people because you have the capabilities of doing it. He said, I seen you go to sleep in the back of the classroom, and because you went to sleep in the back of the classroom, everybody else went to sleep in the back of the classroom. But I also seen that same person go to sleep and get a 90 on my exam, and everybody else failed it. And I'm trying to figure out how, and I said, the reason why is because you have the ability to lead people to do great things, and you can't ever forget that. And you always have to apply that each and every day. And I'm like, all right, this guy's talking whatever. But I'm going to keep that in mind. So, yeah, then from there, fast forward, go through work life, all of that. And where I come to today is that everything I've done is basically because I tried. And if anybody could learn anything from today's talk, is that change is inevitable, adapting is important, and just give things a try. Because if you don't give something a try, you won't ever know what you're good at or what you're not good at. And you want to improve. We all want to improve in any area in life. And sometimes your skill set in one area may be more suitable in another area. So that's all I have for you today. And I would like for people to ask me questions. I could have rambled for another 40 minutes, but I want the questions to get out because I know transportation is,
Facts.
Well, first,
Facts.
first we have to say thank you, right?
Yes.
Because just being in your presence, changes how I feel. This talk about being a leader, about having a mission to help others, it's true. There's something very special about you, Garrison.
Thank you,
It emanates from your being, and it is such a pleasure that we get to work together side by side for these last 3 years, and I hope many, many more. So
thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
Okay, questions. Anybody? Garrison, he'll answer. Oh, here we go.
Oh, man.
One question.
No, yeah, I got
All
that.
right. Before I ask the question, I've known you now 4 years.
3 years.
2022, I met you at the clinic when you try to hustle
Well,
those antibiotics.
all right, 2022.
When I saw you in the clinic.
All right.
Try to hustle the antibiotics. I ain't forgot about that.
Now I wanted him to come to our program.
Yeah, okay.
But that's what Hector likes to say, you know, hustle
Sure, it's a fact.
antibiotics.
It's a fact. I saw
Yeah.
you come up to me, you rolled up on me, and was like, yeah. All right, now, the thing what I want to say is, the amount of times that I've been around you, seen you, the mental endurance, no excuses, just do things. I just wanted to say that's a reflection on your moms.
Yeah, that's why I said
Raising
it's a lot
a
about her.
person. So give it up, round of applause. Now, my question, because this guy already told me ask one only.
You're way over.
All right, you got so many titles, you do so many things.
Yeah.
What is your next power move to take over the world?
I don't really prepare for like the next move. My ultimate goal is to win a Nobel Peace Prize at some point in my life. So I just do anything and work towards that. You know, whatever I could do to work towards that, I do it. But that's my ultimate goal. And sometimes when you set your goals so far ahead, it takes a little while longer to get it. But I'm gonna get it one of these days.
I'm pretty sure you'll do it. Pretty sure you'll do it.
Yeah.
Give me another question.
One question, right?
I get it. I see you looking at me.
Hello? All right. Looking at your life right now, and looking and thinking back about your life or what could have been, would you have had your life go any other way, or would you have taken this path?
Looking back now, today, it's the same. I think my life would have been the same, you know, anyway, you know, like, it's more or less of who you are as a person, your character, and then it's how you want to apply your character to the world. But I think I would have been doing something similar. I still would have been an athlete, just a different sport, but at least I met people with spinal cord injuries, I could say, all across the world. And I don't know if I would have been able to do that if I played football. I think I just met people domestically or had an impact domestically. But yeah, I got fans, like friends, fans, whatever you want to call them, but like in Ecuador, that I remember I was at a competition, like, you're Garrison Redd. And he spoke Spanish to me, and I'm like, Google translated. I'm like, yeah, I'm Garrison Redd. I got a friend in Nigeria that, like, he walks with CAFOs all the time. And like, I'm like, that's adapting to your environment, bro, because in your environment, you can't use a wheelchair, things of that nature. So like, I have so many friends across the world that I could go anywhere, pretty much any state in this country, almost a lot of countries, and have friends that I could stay with, show me around, things of that nature. So like, it's pretty cool.
Hear more about what you do to help others and everything, like newly injured, old injured. Just elaborate on that a little bit more.
Well, you should know. I do the trips. I organize a lot of trips. Yeah. I visit people's bedside. You know, I stay in just a. All right, to be you really want to know. There's members of the community that has called me at 1 o'clock in the morning, contemplating suicide. And I'm like, yo, Angela, I need a number just to give them, like 1 in the morning.
Yeah.
And this not like one time, this is multiple times, you know, throughout life, probably for like the last 10 years, like people would, you know, I'm a resource. So you can reach out to me and ask me any question, and then you can take that answer and go back to your physician and apply and hit your physician with that particular answer. Like, oh, I heard that this is on the market. I heard I could use this, but in so many forms, I probably help people in thousands of ways. It depends. Like, see my man Wusani back there, right there. He called me every Wednesday. I hold him down, you know? So like anything you need and I can help you with, I just give. I'm like an open book. I just give, you know? I don't look for nothing in return. I prefer to just give. That way, if I made your life better, it makes my life better.
Angela.
Yeah, go.
I don't have a question for you. What I have is a statement. I'm only 18 months in the chair, and if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be where I'm at. So I want to say thank you, Garrison.
Of course,
Thank you very
of
much.
course. You're more than welcome.
What would be some activities that you could recommend for wheelchair users to do with their non-wheelchair user family and friends to be inclusive?
Awesome. Good question. Well, you can start at the as basic of things as just going to a restaurant together, you know. That'll give a person time to socialize, to interact. Depending on the time since their injury, you know, the earlier the better. I always recommend like take your loved one out or whatever the case is. Make sure to get out early. But yeah, anything social, anything that embodies socialism and learning from each other, you know, I think is important. So you can start as basic and simple as a restaurant, but like you could do anything with whoever. Like I seen quads learn how to swim, so the limits is there's no limit. There's no limit. It's just trying. That's what it boils back down to. You just got to try whatever you want with that person, and you should be good to go.
On that note, can you speak a little bit more about like your community and your support network at different phases, and is that kind of the same core that has had to adapt with you, or has it expanded?
Good question. Good. That's a really good question. So when it comes to support and community, it changes. It changes based on all different factors. So like, for instance, even though you have a spinal cord injury, you know how relationships with people is. It's always going to be the same. Some of your friends might be your friend today, and then you might grow apart just cause. It's no real reason why y'all grew apart. It's just how life goes. But throughout a constant figure, throughout my whole entire life living with a spinal cord injury has been my mother and father. They always had my back, you know, through thick and thin, through the worst times where I was just being obnoxious and didn't want to do anything and just wanted to be, you know, defiant, all the way to the successful times, like, you know, taking my father to Mexico to see me compete and stuff like that, you know. So it's different support, but, you know, there's constant figures. You have friends, your friends may change based on, you know, your new endeavors. But the spinal cord injury community is always welcoming because I have a spinal cord injury. And yeah, I've had friends change and support change, not constantly, but it does change over time. So I think the main thing is, to answer your question, is you want to try to get around good people at in every aspect of your life. So you're going to be in school one day, next day you're going to be working. Find the good people to surround yourself with that accept you for you if you have a spinal cord injury. And most people don't even see the wheelchair, so I will say that.
Hi, G.
That's an articulate question.
You know I came prepared today, right? Yeah. So I have two questions for you. The first question is, if you could invent one thing tomorrow to improve independence, what would it be?
One thing. What's the one thing I'll do to improve independence tomorrow? I think I'll put an elevator at every train station so that way all New York City individuals that have mobility requirements can get to where they have to get to on time.
Okay.
This might not happen, but
2050.
And my second question is, for someone that has experienced an SCI that feels like they cannot find love or they cannot build a relationship or connection with someone, what advice would you give them?
the game is sold, not to be told. Now I'm playing. The advice I would give them is be yourself. You gotta be yourself. So like, I remember when I was getting ready to go back to school, I used to wear baggy sweatpants, and my mom's like, "Yo, that don't look right. That's not you. You gotta dress better. You gotta get back to who you are as a person. Your appearance, you know, things of that nature. Your smell, how you smell. If you smell good, you're gonna attract people. You know, that's just how it is. So I think being yourself is one. I think people are usually impressed when someone has been through a traumatic experience and is able to showcase that they are resilient. And yeah, two, just live your life and it will find you. Thank you for having me, y'all. All right, thank you, Angela.